11:70 a.m. I'm Vijaya, welcoming you to Human Connection, our series spotlighting and applauding initiatives at the grassroots that help, heal, and transform society. Benjamin Franklin once said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." And today we shine the spotlight on Agastya, a cause that takes these words to heart by empowering underprivileged children in India with access to a solid science education. One of the world's largest mobile hands-on science education programs of its kind, Agastya has sparked curiosity, creativity, and confidence in 15 million economically disadvantaged children to date, half of these being girls, and 250,000 government school teachers across 21 states in India. And if that wasn't phenomenal enough, well, they've now projected a target to reach 100 million children by 2025. So how is Agastya doing this, and what can you do to help? Well, joining me is Ramji Raghavan, the founder and chairperson of Agastya International Foundation. A social innovator and entrepreneur, Ramji's deep desire to give back and make a difference to the country of his birth really drove him to give up a highly distinguished career in banking and finance in the US and UK and move back to India in 1998 to create Agastya. Well, I can't wait to get talking to him, so let's welcome him. Hello, namaskar, Ramji, Raghavanji. So great to meet you and see you.
Thank you so much, namaskar, Vijaya, and a pleasure to connect with you and all your listeners in America. It's
Absolutely. Yes, and of course, congratulations are in order for this incredible achievement of touching so many millions of young lives. And going from strength to strength on that. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Vijaya. None of it would have happened without the help of so many people in India and outside. Mm-hmm. So yes, delighted to be with you today and talk more about Agastya.
Mm-hmm. So, my question is, I know the mission of Agastya is to spark curiosity, but it sparked another curiosity in me about the name itself, invoking Sage Agastya. So I wanted to ask you, how did that come about? And, how did you get inspired with this idea of starting Agastya as well?
Excellent question. It takes my mind back to 1998. Mm-hmm. I was a banker living in London. And one day at Earl's Court mm-hmm. in London, over a pizza, I asked a friend of mine, a very spiritual individual, if he could recommend a name for this new foundation that I plan to create. Mm-hmm. And he asked me, what kind of name do you want? And I said, an Indian name that's not too long. So he closed his eyes for a few seconds and then said, Agastya. And so I was curious. I said, isn't that the name of a Maharishi? Can you tell me more about him? And he said, don't worry about that. You'll find out. But just remember something. You asked me for the name. So Agastya is a very important name that stands for no ego. Uh-huh. So whether this foundation you're starting succeeds or fails, never forget that you're only a delivery system. Never let it go to your head that you were the cause of the success of this foundation. So that's what I will leave you with. Some years later, I got curious and investigated further the name Agastya and found that it stood for some beautiful things. Agastya came from North to South India to spread knowledge. Mm-hmm. So spreading knowledge. On the way, he encountered the famous Vindhya mountains. And the story goes, he asked the mountains to go down so he could cross over. Mm-hmm. So it stood for overcoming obstacles. He settled in Tamil Nadu and created Tamil grammar and the Siddha school of medicine, which is all about creativity. And finally, he was known to be very close to marginalized sections of society, which stands for inclusiveness. So beautiful name, spreading knowledge, overcoming obstacles, creativity, and inclusivity.
It really covered all bases before you even embarked on that journey, right?
Yes, right. I wasn't aware of it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, I was also curious about practically and how it all really works. And before that, of course, I was asking you how you were inspired by this particular idea of educating underprivileged children in India, which is great,
Well,
such a great need.
yeah, for me, it goes back to my school days at Rishi Valley, a boarding school near Bangalore,
Mm-hmm.
founded by J. Krishnamurti, who used to live in the Ojai Valley in California part of the year. And I read a book called Lost Horizon. It was about a mythical kingdom in the foothills of the Himalayas where everyone was very happy and so on and so forth, Shangri-La. And I remember I used to dream of living in a place like Shangri-La. And as I grew older, I asked the question, hey, maybe you should create a school in the foothills of the Himalayas that would produce creative kids, a la Shangri-La.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I grew older and older and decided to make the shift, I began to think of this school project, came back to India, and then widened the scope. It wasn't just for elite creative kids, but for the mass of children.
Mm-hmm.
How can we create a Shangri-La for millions and millions of kids across the country? So that's how I was inspired. It was a childhood dream that became a project, and voila, we have Agastya today.
Yes. And really kudos to you to really leave a flourishing career behind in the States, in UK, and then head back to do this. So it's really very noble of you to do that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Like any decision, Silicon Valley is full of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
This was also an entrepreneurial decision for me in the sense I was embarking on achieving a dream with no idea of how I was going to make it happen. And like anyone else, I went through a lot of soul searching. It wasn't an easy decision, especially when you're leaving behind a lot of money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my father, who was a very successful CEO, looking at me perhaps a little surprised, and he asked me, he said, are you sure you want to do this because you realize there's no money in this? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, okay, then don't regret tomorrow if you see your friends doing very well, making money and moving up the ladder, that, gosh, I missed out on that. And I said, I don't think I will regret. I can't guarantee it, but hopefully I won't. And he said, well, if you don't regret, then it's okay. Go for it, and I'll help you in any way I can.
Excellent.
So that was the nature of the decision.
So tell me, practically, how does this all work? How do the programs work? How do you get children to learn through the mobile and hands-on system? And I know you set up in Bangalore, but across the 21 states, tell us how it really all works.
So what we said early on was we must fill an important gap in education. And the gap we identified was the lack of the spirit of inquiry in Indian education. And that's probably true around the world.
Yes.
A very rote-based, I talk, you listen type of education. So we said, unless this changes, India can't become a creative and innovative nation. So we said, our mission will be to spark curiosity, nurture creativity, and instill confidence through hands-on experiential learning. Again, completely absent in the education. And we will do it for underprivileged children and importantly, school teachers, because school teachers can force multiply the effect of what we're doing. So that was the strategy. And I was surrounded by a lot of scientists at the time. I'm myself an MBA without a real science background. And they convinced me, let's go with hands-on science. So with that, we said, let's set up a campus that will become a sort of Taj Mahal of creative learning. And we got 170 acres of barren wasteland near Bangalore in Andhra Pradesh to establish this campus. That was the good news. The bad news was 2000 dot-com bust, we ran out of money. So what do you do? No money to build the buildings. We were under a lot of pressure. I'd quit my job and all the rest of it. And then we did what we're good at. We huddled, Mahavir, co-founder, my father and I, and we came up with the idea of a mobile science van. While we wait for the money to build the buildings on campus, let's take our creative learning methods to the villages through a mobile science van. So we had a tractor driver on campus. We trained him, Balram, as our first science teacher. In fact, he had an arts background. Got a second-hand vehicle from Hindustan Motors, put a box of low-cost, counterintuitive science experiments in it, and set Balram loose in the villages, and it had a catalytic effect on the kids in the villages surrounding our campus. And that made it to the headlines of the Times of India as a very innovative kind of idea. The government of Karnataka called me and said, can't we expand this across the state? It seems very innovative. And it's about that time that I ran into a very wealthy stock market investor, famous man called Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in Bombay.
Oh.
And Rakesh said, I will fund one mobile science van, then two, then three. And then he said, come up with a long-term plan for the campus. I find your ideas really innovative and potentially transformative. And I'd like to be part of this journey. So we came up with a plan, and slowly today we have 200 mobile science vans, about 85 labs on motorbikes, which won the Google Global Impact Award in 2014. We have 100 science centers. Of course, now a spectacular campus. All that barren wasteland has become a medicinal park, a big eco-restoration effort. So that's where we are today, with about 1,200 full-time staff and 400 part-time people, reaching about 2 million children indirectly every year.
Wonderful. So tell me, how can Silicon Valley help your cause and the movement, and what are you looking for from people in the US?
Yeah, and particular, Silicon Valley and people in the US, none of what Agastya has achieved to date, we've reached 15 million children, would have been possible by just dreaming a dream. At the practical level, you need strategies, you need ideas, you need resources, people coming together, both intellectual and financial support. So besides Jhunjhunwala, there's Deshpande from Boston. There are people in the Valley. Ram Shriram has made a big commitment to educating children in India and through Agastya as well, the Google board member, but many others. And at various levels and at various age groups. We have companies like Synopsys, Broadcom, Qualcomm, Honeywell, and so on, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. So corporate CSR, individual support has been the backbone of Agastya's growth and evolution.
Yes.
Now we have this plan, Vijaya, of Agastya 2.0 of reaching 100 million children in the next 5 years. And this is really a really bold plan.
Yes.
Now to get there, it's going to be a combination of our traditional physical learning and digital virtual learning. We are going to need support to make this plan happen. It will cause a revolution in education, not just in India, but potentially for others around the world to look at. I need support. Agastya needs support from well-meaning people in the Valley and in America. We formed Agastya USA, a 501c3 that is run by Venkat Ketineni, an Intel employee, Raju Reddy, an entrepreneur. And now we have Sri Jagannathan, the former head of innovation at Intuit, focusing full-time on Agastya's work in the US, building partnerships. So we need you, especially during this time of COVID, these difficult, millions of children have dropped out of education. We've just got to bring them back, or we're going to have huge problems in society. So help us. Visit Agastya USA. Be generous with your thoughts, your ideas, your networks. Open your wallets and contribute in any way you can to Agastya's cause. That would be my earnest request of your listeners.
Absolutely. So it's agastya.usa.org that they have to go on to, agastya.usa.org. One word.
Yes. Yes. AGASTYA.
Right. Excellent. So have you had a chance to, track children who've gone through the Agastya program and, find out where are they now in their learning and in their life journey?
Absolutely. This is a very important part of what we do, which is measuring the impact of our programs. And I'll tell you a story. You know, in 2008, two village girls near our campus in Andhra Pradesh, Rani and Roja, to avoid the unbearable heat of the Indian summer, they went and sat under a tree to escape the sun. And while they were sitting there, Rani asks Roja, "Hey, Roja, do you ever wonder why you feel cool or cooler sitting in the shade of a tree?" And Roja replies, "Yeah, it must have something to do with the fact that the leaves and branches shield us from the sun."
Yeah.
And then Rani pops out the aha question: would different leaves have different cooling effects? That question became a project called the Cooling Effect of Leaves.
Wow.
6 months later, working with Agastya's staff, they won the Intel Iris Science Prize at the national level, competing with the best and brightest kids from across the most well-heeled schools in India.
Amazing.
Rani today, since 2008, she's now doing a PhD in life sciences at a university near Bangalore.
Wow.
And it was that seminal experience and the interaction with Agastya and the questioning she went through that created that success, right? So we have thousands of case studies of kids like Rani who have, transformed their thinking. And we talk about 5 behavior shifts, Vijaya. It's not just knowledge. It's shifting from yes to why, a more questioning mind, from looking to observing, from being passive to learning to explore, from being textbook bound to being more hands-on. And finally, the most important behavioral shift, the shift from fear to confidence. The belief that you can do something is so important to transformation. And that these are the 4 or 5 shifts that we have tracked. We've developed a system working with the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore to track these impacts at scale.
Wow, I don't know what I'm speechless. This is such a great initiative right there. And of course, you've got an excellent way of putting it all, the creativity, the curiosity, and the confidence. And if you could share that with our listeners, I think that would be really great.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine at MIT who told me a few years ago that most organizations in the US and elsewhere suffer from what he called an exponential decay of vision. So you might have a great idea, a vision, mission at the top, but by the time it goes down, it gets diluted so much. So he asked me, how do you avoid that? And I said, the way we have avoided it is by simplifying our mission and making sure it touches not just the mind, but the hearts of our frontline teachers, employees.
Yes.
So we looked at curiosity, creativity, and confidence. And I remember the same ex-tractor driver, Balram, doing a class under a tree many years ago with some village kids. And he asked them, do you believe what you see? And they all said, yeah, we believe what we see. So he had given them each a piece of A4 size paper, and he asked them to roll it up into a paper telescope and tell him what they saw through the telescope. And they told him. Then he asked them to keep both eyes open and put the other hand vertically next to the paper telescope and tell him what they saw, and they couldn't believe it. They saw a hole in their hand. And he said, but you said you believe what you see. Is there a hole in your hand? And the answer was, there's no hole in your hand. So what happened was they experienced something simple but counterintuitive that went against their belief. And they went, So the is so important, because in the your mind is awakened, your curiosity is stirred and stimulated. So we said is critical, and it stands for curiosity. Having asked the question, then they inquired, they had a discussion. How come you see a hole in your hand? And they found out the reason why the brain gets fooled, and they experienced the famous aha effect. And aha is about comprehension, the creative learning process, discovery, experimentation. So and aha stand for curiosity and creativity. And I could see visibly they were having a lot They were giggling and
having fun with
is another way of talking about curiosity, creativity, confidence. And that's made a huge difference to people understanding what Agastya really stands for. It's not just a new
Yes.
learning, it's about a new.
Very well put, very well put. I think that's going to stay with us, the aha, aha, right?
I hope
And
your listeners experience some of that in
yes.
this interview.
Yes, absolutely. Every moment is that. So I am so grateful to you to, have shared so much insight at this time. And of course, I wish Agastya every success. And I'm sure it's going to be a breeze reaching 100 million, the kind of support that you have and the kind of support we hope our folks here in the US also contribute to. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Vijaya. And really, I just want to re-emphasize the focus on these underprivileged children and government school teachers. We truly have an opportunity to create a revolution at scale. It's not a wishful dream.
Yes.
We've achieved so much till now, and there's much, much more to achieve. And thank you for your support and for your listeners for listening in. And I look forward to working with all of you to making this dream happen.
Yes, good luck. And of course, folks, empowering the children of India to create a joyful future for themselves. Wouldn't you like to be a part of it? Well, it's been so enriching and fulfilling learning about Agastya and what it seeks to do. And if you too have been inspired to do your bit to equip children with learning that can open doors for them, your support is required. Any form, cash, kind, ideas, suggestions, and action. It's all there for you to really take that first step towards Agastya, and it's agastya.usa.org. agastya.usa.org. And thank you, Ramji, for sharing these ideas, and hope to talk to you again very soon once you reach the 100 million.
Thank you, Vijaya. That's inspiring. Namaskar.
Namaskar. On that note, this is Vijaya for Radio Zindagi. Jiye ja.